you have a choice to become stronger or weaker. There's no in between.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Food Matters podcast, your home for nutrition, health, and wellness education. My name is Laurentine. I am a filmmaker and a nutritionist and the founder of foodmatters.com, and I'm here to hold your hand on this journey to optimum health, transformation, and emotional healing. Hello, and we're live on another Food Matters podcast. How is everybody doing? I hope you're all well. I am so excited to have Kat Finnerty back in the studio with us, and we're getting some more scoop on her life and where she's at right now. So, hi, Kat. How are you doing?
Great, Laurentine. Thank you. It's so exciting to be back on the Food Matters podcast. So thank you. Great to see you.
Oh, we are so excited as well. So, for you guys that don't know Kat, I'm going to read out a little bit more about Kat's bio, and then we'll go into some questions for us to all get to know her a little bit more and her journey. So, Kat Finnerty is an author, a yoga teacher, fitness expert, nutritionist, and a certified master of disaster. We discuss how Kat cured herself of the debilitating symptoms of MS by reframing her thoughts, staying active, and maintaining a nutritious diet. Today, we'll be delving into understanding emotional eating, overcoming the triggers that contribute to emotional eating, and practical steps to develop a healthier relationship with our food and managing our emotions. So, Kat, tell us a little bit more about your healing journey and how this all started for you.
So it initially started really delving into it when I was diagnosed with MS. My first son was only just born. He was just a baby, 2 weeks old. And the doctors told me at the age of 27 that I'd be in a wheelchair by the time I was 40. And there was not much I could do about it. But they said, good news, we have some injections. So yeah, you'll be okay till you're 40. And then after that, we'll see. And I didn't really like that answer, of course. So that's when I really thought there's got to be another way. And that's when I committed to either finding a cure or die trying. And that's when I started to explore everything holistically, medicine, as well as all the natural cures as well.
It's such a beautiful story because there's a lot of people suffering with MS right now that have been told that they're going to be in a wheelchair and that they have been told that there's no cure. So I herald you and I herald all the beautiful practices that you have done yourself to be able to get on top of this. And so tell us a little bit about your protocol and how you were able to heal yourself, literally.
Interesting. Like I said, I thought I'm going to leave no stone unturned to accomplish the goal of being able to live. Because what I fear more than anything is not death, but not being able to live really and truly. And I think that's what we don't really having an illness like MS. And look, it's not just MS, it's every autoimmune disease really that people have, or any illness that people have, physically and mentally. We really do control what our outcomes are often with how we eat, what we consume physically, and what we consume mentally. So I went on this long journey to basically figure out how to never let a good disaster go to waste. And I sort of delved in and came up with 12 principles, which are in my book, of how to never let a good disaster go to waste by reframing the way I did things and thinking. So one thing I really had to focus on was to change the way I was thinking. So I want to tell you the story about the meatloaf sandwich. Do you know that one? No, it's one of my favorites. So there's this story about Big Frankie and Little Joe. And Big Frankie comes to work on the construction site, and him and Little Joe are sitting there eating their lunch, and he unwraps his lunch, and he goes, "Ah, meatloaf! I hate meatloaf!" And Little Joe just looks at him, and the next day he comes in, and Big Frankie unwraps his lunch. He's like, "Meatloaf! I hate meatloaf!" And so his friend just looks at him, and the third day he comes in, and he's like, "Ah, meatloaf again. I hate meatloaf." And the guy goes, "Mate, if you hate meatloaf, why don't you tell your wife to stop making you meatloaf sandwiches?" To which he replies, "Buddy, I'm not married. I make my own sandwiches." So we constantly recreate our own suffering by the things that we continuously do. So to get off that hamster wheel of constantly recreating my suffering from the things I did, thought, said, I really had to learn how to master my mind to flip my perspective on things. So that
Gosh.
was really the first step, is mastering the mind, because the mind is everything. The mind will, if we're not the ones talking up there, who is? And that's the voice inside your head that you need to really talk to, because it's not one going, go eat chocolate, eat crap, drink, do whatever. And you really have to get that under control. We call it the monkey mind in Buddhism.
Mm, that's such a true and really good point, because how often do we catch ourselves? We might be speaking with our friends on the phone and we say, "Oh, I can't believe you beat yourself up. You say something bad and negative about yourself and things that you don't like about yourself." However, all these words have impact. All these words also have the way to actually go deeper into our nervous system, and then we start believing them. So, how do you? I mean, it's easy to do that with something as simple as, when you look in the mirror and you berate yourself. But when you've been told that you have no cure, that you have no hope of walking, how do you try to remove that from your brain when you have been told this by professionals?
Great question. And it's one that I'm really profoundly impactful when I say to people, don't carry your diagnosis in your head, because you will become it. So one of the first things I did was practice something I call ignorant bliss. So when they told me that, I did whatever I could to shift my thinking and think, no, that's not me. I'm not associating with that diagnosis. I will not. I didn't tell people I have MS. I generally try to really avoid that label. And one thing that I loved in my 30s, I had 3 children in 3 years. I was told when my first son was born, don't have any more children, just love your one little boy. But then I had 3 kids in 3 years. And I did. I got worse. Like the neurologist predicted, when my third daughter was born, my third child, my daughter, I couldn't see out of an eye. I could barely walk. Both of my arms didn't work. It was actually hard to cut up my kids' food. And I actually sunk into a deep depression. I thought, oh my God, if this is where I am now and it's only going to get worse, then I don't want to live like this. And I did hit rock bottom for a while. So people that talk to me about depression, I understand being in the depths of despair. But I always say it's so good when you get there, because there's only one way to go, and that's up. And but that's only if you make the decision that something's got to shift. And then that's when I decided, when my legs wouldn't work properly and I'd think, I can't really walk. I wouldn't say I can't walk. I'd say I can't walk well yet. Not because I didn't say I can't walk because I have MS. I'd say I can't walk yet. I just kept trying. And it was hard. And my kids were in a stroller, which was good because I used to use those as walking frames. And so I could mask a lot of the troubles I had. And I didn't challenge myself often in front of other people because it was embarrassing to fall and to trip and to stumble. But I didn't focus on the end result. I just joyful effort. I accepted what was, but I was determined to change things. So every time my mind got into that spiral of depression and sadness and frustration, I had to use my master of disaster principle, which was mastering the mind and noticing the monkey mind and where it was going, because there's that algorithm playing in your head that you don't even realize. And that's where meditation comes in, where you say, stop, don't believe that thought. You know, you're going to get better. And I didn't know at the time, obviously I would, but it didn't help me to believe that I'd get worse. So I always say this, given that my situation's like this right now in this moment, what's the best way for me to think for my present happiness and for my future happiness? Because our thoughts create a reality. So I just kept focusing my thoughts on what I wanted to create.
Wow. And after that, you decided to go into yoga and helping others get healthy as well. So you became a nutritionist. You understood the principles of how to heal yourself, how to heal your body with food and with mind, and especially what we're talking about here is through meditation and mindset. And then you decided to help others do the same. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey there?
Yeah, and you know, because we run these retreats often together, empowering experience and transformational retreats, because I really got to a point where I've been through so much in my life, and that I've come up with these. I really came up with the principles when my husband left me on my 40th birthday. That's when they really coalesced into the 12 principles to never let a good disaster go to waste. And it's really transformative when you tell people they have a choice. You have a choice to be happy right now in this moment, or you have a choice to suffer. But it's actually a choice. You're choosing suffering or you're choosing happiness. You're choosing moment to moment with your thoughts and with your actions. I always say, right now, you have a choice to become stronger or weaker. There's no in between. So, moment to moment, really think to yourself, is what I'm doing right now in my best self interest for the future? Or is it pulling me down? Is it killing me? Is it taking me the other way?
Wow, beautiful. So what about people, and I get this a lot with the Food Matters audience, what about people that are overcoming addictions, and especially with sugar cravings, people with tendencies to want to overeat. We have a lot of during our retreats as well, people that have a difficult time shifting weight, and they come to the
Mm-hmm.
retreat and they say, I can't do any of the yoga classes. I'm too big. I feel uncomfortable in my skin. Let's talk a little bit about how we can help people in strategies on to stop our mind from over wanting to overeat.
First of all, Laurentine, I'm someone who doesn't eat sugar. I don't eat wheat. I don't have dairy. I don't drink alcohol, except for when I do. And that happens. And I think sometimes so many people are so rigid, and we get fed so much information. Do paleo, do low carb, do high protein, you know. There is the one thing everyone is, and I've noticed this especially on the retreats, these people come with such incredible knowledge. I'm like, do you have like a degree in nutrition? You know everything. They know so much. But the point is that they get confused. And I always like, keep it simple, stupid, you know? Let's just think about Mother Nature's packaging. And yes, addiction, I'm constantly battling my addictions. I love sugar and I love to have my wine, and you know, the thing is that strength is built on pain. And it's painful to go, you know what? You can't eat that right now. So one strategy I love to use is to say to myself, you can have that, but you have to wait an hour. So I brush my teeth, or I go and do some work, or I think, okay, you've got to go and do some exercise first. One another thing I love is exercise snacks. Have you heard about exercise snacks?
No.
So it's, and they've proven that you actually don't need to exercise for long. So it's about actually having exercise snacks, because what you hear all the time, you know, I can't exercise. I haven't got time. I've got, this is wrong with me. That's wrong with me. You don't need long. You can take 30 seconds. You can take 1 minute. Just that alone can have a profound impact on not just your mental state, but your physical state. It allows your body your muscles to work and to get the blood sugar, the sugars out of your blood. So often if I think, ooh, I feel like a snack, a chocolate usually, I'm like, okay, you gotta go do 10 squats. I'm like, you gotta have your exercise snack before you eat that snack. So it is about, I think, having your cake and eating it too, really. And you can't do it all the time, but where your mind goes, your energy flows. So if you're going, oh, I really want chocolate. Sorry, everyone's going to leave right now because they're going to go find chocolate because I'm using this suggestion. No, you really want to eat some snow peas and some sprouts. That's what you really want, isn't it? So it's really focusing on the mind and noticing your mind's going chocolate, chocolate. It's like, no, you have control over that mind. You can. think, I don't choose to believe that thought right now because it's only you telling yourself that you need chocolate. You can tell yourself a different story. No, actually, I choose to feel healthy. I choose to feel well. And where do I want to see myself into? I always say, choose yourself whenever you eat. Try as much as you can to have five-star snacks. So you feel it's a five-star snack or food when you eat it, after you eat it, and then tomorrow that you feel good about yourself
That's
with it.
so cool. I love that. I love it. And just let's just break down emotional eating for all of us. And what do you believe that triggers emotional eating? And once we start to understand a little bit more and create awareness around that, we can start to change our relationship with that.
Well, I think the topic around emotional eating is vast and it's massive and it's likely different for everybody. Having young kids, it was really interesting. I was super strict with my kids when they were growing up. I was like the food Nazi when other kids saw that, my kids that their mom was on canteen, they'd roll their eyes and like, oh, she's not gonna let us have anything. So I was really strict, and I was the mom on the at the committees, which was like, don't let we shouldn't be giving the kids slushies and this and that. And I think I was right. Not everyone agreed with me. A lot of people were like, but if you hold kids back too much, then they go overboard. And I don't know that there's actually evidence one way or the other. So it's very hard to say. I do know now that my all three of my kids who did eat fairly healthy but balked at it. If I made a beetroot chocolate cake, they're like, "Not eating that, Mom. You've stuck beetroot in it. We see it." But now they eat super healthy. So emotional eating, where does it come from? Who knows? And it doesn't matter. I think so many people want to look back at their past and blame things, but the
Mm,
point is the past is the past. You can create another story. And a big part of my journey and what I write about and never let a good disaster go to waste is the way we can change the past is to change our memories of the past. So you can just radically accept whatever happened in the past, it happened. That's the past. And be grateful and thankful for all of the lessons you learned. Like when you emotionally ate and you binge ate, and then you go, that felt horrible. I'm not happy about it. I don't want to go again. That's when you learn the lessons and go, that's enough. And my darkest times are the times I look in the mirror and I say, toughen up, buttercup. When you're in the depths of the despair and the times when you get really low and people go, oh, I'm broken. And I'm like, good, good. Because when you're in your comfort zone, there's no impetus for change. So often in our journey, we need to get up against that wall where we get that disease diagnosis or, you know, there's a party or a wedding, you're like, that's it. It's enough. I can't feel like this anymore. And that's when you go, that's enough. But you can do that right now. You can just decide that I don't want to feel like this anymore and make those decisions right now in this moment. For me, when I was diagnosed with MS, I went down really a strict nutrition diet. Back then, I mean, the diets have all changed than what they were 26 years ago. But what I said to myself is, I can choose. I choose to eat these healthy foods, and I wouldn't even say, oh, I can't have that. People go, you can't have this and that. I'm like, I don't even think about it. I can have all this. The food that healthy and is good is abundant. So don't focus on what you can't have. Focus on what you can have and be so grateful for that.
I love that. And personally, as I can see, you are vibrant and healthy today. What is the type of foods that you gravitate towards, and what sort of diet do you like to follow?
Um, for me, I'm a creature of habit. So I don't know. Are you familiar with Gretchen Rubin's work in the Happiness Project?
Yeah, I've seen that work.
Yeah, it's so great. And she talks about people have like these four tendencies. And I actually don't know all four, but I know there's the moderators and abstainers. And I'm generally an abstainer. Like I need to stay right away from things. If there is lollies in my house, I will find them and I will eat them, especially Twizzlers red licorice. I'll devour the whole pack. So I'm really someone that needs that. my willpower is really good, except for when it's not. And so I find it's really easier not to have those things around. But as far as eating, I'm a really routine person. And you, Laurentine, living in Vanuatu, you know what it's like. Their diet is so limited. We often think, oh, we have to have all this variety in in our diets. For me, I like to take the guesswork out of what I'm going to eat and just eat the same thing all the time. So often for breakfast, I'll have either an omelet with veggies or oatmeal with flax seeds and chia. And then for lunch, it's protein and salad. And for dinner, it's protein and salad or steamed veggies or a variation of that.
Mm.
I don't get too fancy. I don't complicate things. I like to always have snacks around because I'm a snacker. And so it's always, and I've taught weight loss programs. I used to run all those Biggest Loser programs. And I always taught people, go home, cut up your carrots, celery, cucumber, whatever, have them stored in the fridge ready to go. Because at least when you have that healthy choice and you take it with you, it's so much easier to take that guesswork out of it. And so with emotional eating, I think the biggest thing is to know that we are actually the ones in control of our mind. How many times are you going to make yourself a
Mm.
meatloaf sandwich? Stop eating meatloaf sandwiches.
That is so, so true. And so, for people that are taking notes right now and that would like to have some more strategies, so especially going back to your book and referring to becoming a master of disaster, how do you stop emotional eating, and how do you master your diet disaster?
Well, emotional eating, it really is for you to decide that's it. No more, I had enough. And really watching your mind around it. It's radical acceptance. Whatever's happened has happened. So one of my superpowers is radical acceptance. You can't change the past, but you can change what you do right now. So who you are right now in this moment is not because of what you're doing right now. It's what you did yesterday. And if you want to change your tomorrows, change what you do today. Change how you think, change how you eat, and change how you move. And all it is just a matter of just moment to moment being aware of your perceptions. So another one of my master disaster principles is to become to really flip your perception on your situation. So a lot of times people emotionally eat because they think, oh my, they're unhappy with a part of their life. A game changer is to ask yourself, what problems am I grateful for not having? Because there's so many things going right in our life, but we're completely ignorant to it. Unfortunately, in the West, I find we can be scab pickers. We have this perfect life. We have so many things going right for us. Like we have won the life lottery, but we look at this one little thing going on with our life and we just keep picking at it and saying, "Oh, this isn't right in my life." So just the idea of flipping your perception on your life and being really grateful for the problems that you haven't got is amazing and transformative in itself. So what you embrace, you move through with grace, but what you resist persists. So it's going, okay, it's like this right now, but I can choose to flip my perspective on it, move through it, and choose a different life. So who do you want to be tomorrow? So focusing on what you want to be tomorrow. And one thing that helps me a lot is I look at other people, I'm like, if they can do it, why can't I? And if I can do it, why can't you? We all have the power within us. It's just making that
Wow.
choice. We choose to keep suffering.
I love that. I love that, Kat. It's such a good point. And it's so often that we don't think about the things that have not gone right in our life, or we don't think about the things that are going right in our life. And we don't think about those things that are happening to us right now that could have been really bad. For example, if we had that car accident that we almost had a near miss, or if we went down that avenue where we actually died from that illness. Like there's so many things that we could actually be focusing on, and a lot of times, if we actually focus on the beautiful things in our life that we're grateful for, then we're actually helping ourselves hugely in improving our mindset. So, my biggest question in regards to somebody that's come to you with, they have health issues, are coming with you to you with emotional eating, and they're feeling not very good in their body. what would be the first thing that you would help them do?
Master their mind and knowing that every single thing that we have in our life right now is karma. Action. Karma is just action. Karma is you doing something and you getting the result. So where you are right now in your life is because of your past actions. Where you want to go in the future is you want to become a maestro of manifestation. So those are both two of my principles. So really being aware of your karma and being a maestro of manifestation. So it's realizing that your action right now will depend on how you are tomorrow. So taking action right now. So think, act, be, and do. I always say, fake it till you make it. It doesn't matter. Like this weekend, I'm doing a 150-kilometer bike ride. I've never ridden that far in my life. But I'm like, I can do it. I'm just going to fake it till I make it. I'm just going to do it. And it's actually in the action of doing things that you begin to change. Um, Funnily, my kids, I was brought up Catholic and I wanted to baptize my children Catholic, even though I am more feel I align more with the Buddhist way of thinking now. I accept everything. But when I had to get my children baptized, the priest said, you know, if you want to get your kids baptized, you have to go to church. And I said, can't you just say I go to church? He said, come to church, and then I'll say you come to church. So you want to have you have to do the action. If you don't do the action, you will never get the result. So many times you sit there and go, oh, you know, I wish I could lose weight, or I wish I'd feel differently. Get up and do it. Just get up and do it. Just move. Just start. Just start. Because when you start, because often your mind will talk you out of it, so you actually have to move. And one thing I like to tell people is do the opposite. Do the opposite action to what you would normally do.
Mm.
If you want to, if you keep doing what you're doing, you keep getting what you're getting. I mean, we all know that phrase. So you need to do something differently. So ask yourself right now in this moment, for me to change to be where I want to be in the future, what do I need to do right now to be that person? And just be that person. Who do you know that acts like that and go, what would she do? Oh, my neighbor Carol down the road, she's always out walking, you know, out walking. It's like, go walk like Carol, you know, choose a salad instead of the chicken parmigiana. Make those choices that that person that you want to become is doing.
I love that. That's so beautiful. So there's no more excuses for those of my friends, for example, and even me sometimes when I say I'm not fit enough to go to a yoga class.
So when I first started doing yoga, so I've taught fitness all my life. I was a gym junkie since the age of 16. Even my mom, she used to get up and do fitness to Richard Simmons, and I'd get up and I'd have my headband on. You know, I was like 7, 8 years old, and I'd get up at 6 and do Richard Simmons. I love fitness, taught fitness, and then having MS, by the time I was 30, I was teaching a step class and I kept tripping and tripping. One day I tripped and just broke my ankle, smashed my head. And that's when I realized I'm trying to hang on to this thing that is really not serving me anymore. So I went towards Pilates. I got trained in Pilates and I enjoyed it. But everyone was wearing Lululemon and yoga pants and talking yoga. I'm like, I got to try this yoga thing. And I went to a yoga class and I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I felt like I was going up and down like a demented marionette. And then this this yoga teacher, this blonde waif, was telling us about inner bliss and our chakras. And I was like, what is she talking about? And I said to my friend who met, I said, I'm out of here. Meet me outside. I'm going to go hit the treadmill or the elliptical. And I really didn't enjoy it. But then I found a class that was something that was aligned with me, and it was super hard. And even though my legs didn't really work properly, I always stood next to a wall. I mean, I would never not have a wall next to me. And the teachers came to know me and knew that I needed something to hang on to. So if the class was busy, they'd actually move someone so I'd have my spot. And I'd literally go to class, and every single time I had to step through to a warrior, I had to use my hands, lift up my leg, step my leg through. And I just kept doing it and kept doing it. And I did that for 5 years. Whenever I needed help, I would just use my hands to do it. And I wasn't attached to one day getting better or getting worse. I just thought it's there to do. And and sometimes I'd just have to lie there and I'd fall on my face, but I got back up again. They say fall down 7 times, get up 8. And that's what I used to say to myself. Just keep getting up. Strength is built on pain. But if you never go through the pain, you will never find that strength. So you've got to find that struggle, because in that struggle is where you then rise up. And that's where the change happens. So don't be afraid. We live in this comfort zone, but there is no growth within that comfort zone.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And what about, let's talk about blame. So often I hear clients and personal family friends of mine, they will stagnate their healing journey or their progress because they'll always say, well, that was because I was traumatized as a child, or my ex-husband took me, my money and the finances and the kids, or there's always this external blame. What is there something that you would like to say on that topic in regards to how we can help ourselves to overcome that?
You know I'm itching to. So that is really why I wrote this. A big reason why. As you know, I my husband left on my 40th birthday. 3 children, 15 years of marriage. At the time I was in the hospital, my daughter rang up to say, "Happy birthday, Mummy." She was in grade 6. And she said, "Your friend Talia had a sleepover in your bed last night." I was like, "What?" Okay. And I got home and found out my husband was cheating and the relationship was over. And that's when I realized I could choose to suffer for 12 hours, 12 days, 12 years, or a lifetime, but ultimately the length of time I suffered was entirely up to me. And if I didn't choose to overcome that suffering, if I kept blaming him and playing the victim, oh, my husband left me, it's his fault. And who would I be transferring my pain onto? My kids would wear my pain. So one of my most profound, all my principles are profound, but one I really love is to really encourage people to cast off the mantle of victimhood. We are the masters of our disasters, and we are the creators of our detonators. We choose whatever our life is, it's all of our karma. It's all past stuff coming back at us. And when you're empowered to master your disasters, you can make a change. If you're constantly blaming your past or blaming someone else for your current circumstance, you're completely unempowered. There's nothing you can do about it. You are in victimhood. And the idea of trauma or past pain that you bring forward, I always say to people, we're either in a disaster or between two of them. So don't be surprised when disaster strikes, because it's coming for you. It's coming. But you always have a choice of how you react and how you respond to disaster when it strikes. So that's why I teach people, become a master of disaster, cast off the mantle of victimhood, and ask yourself in that moment of disaster when you're going through it, given that it's like this right now, what's the best way to think? Should I worry about the future? Because do you know what? 91.4% of the things that we worry about never eventuate. Yet we sit there all day and we worry and we stress and we ruminate about the past, and we just create so much stress and turmoil in our lives, and how much illness. And there's your stress eating. What do most people do? Why do they stress eat? Why do they overeat? They're stressed. They're anxious. The night my husband left me, my initial reaction when I saw that text message is I went to my kitchen cupboard and I got out a bar of Lindt chocolate and a bag of Ruffles and a great big bottle of Merlot. And I sat there and I looked at them and I stared at them, because normally that would be my go-to. So, and I'd say to myself, I said, no, no, these are not the answer to my disasters. I need to do the hard work to overcome this without emotional eating, without alcohol. We can't rely on those things. We have to step outside of our victimhood and know that those darkest times, they're the best times of our lives, because they're the times in our lives where we must change.
Mm. That is so beautiful. And it's such beautiful lessons as well. And it's amazing that you can actually reframe your mind. But we can reframe our mind when we're still young. But what about when we're older and when we're 70 and we're going through these difficult times and we look in the mirror and we don't really love what we're seeing? Is there a certain age where you can't be doing this anymore?
Yeah, of course there is, if you believe so. If you believe you're a certain age where you cannot change, you'll never change. No one can force someone to change. It's a choice. But knowing that my grandfather, he was my Papa Joe, he was the greatest. And he at age 92 years old used to always have a cup of tea. So he always had his tea. And one day I went there, he was 92, and I made tea for him. He said, "Oh, no sugar." I'm like, "What? No sugar?" For my whole life, he's British. He had milk and two sugars in his tea. And he goes, I decided it was no good for me, so I went from two sugars to one to half, and now I don't have sugar. If you can change at 92, and people think they can't change, we are changing constantly. Who you were last year is not who you are now, and who you are now is not who you're going to be in a year. So you can. This is one thing I really implore people to do. Make the decision to never ever say, "I can't do that anymore because I'm older." It's just a story. You can't do it anymore because you stopped doing it. Choose to start doing it, and then you'll be that person that can do it again. So you always have the power to change when you decide to change.
I love that. It's such a good lesson for people for every age, you know. And so many times, even my mom, she will say, "Oh, I don't think I can jump on a plane anymore from Spain and make it all the way to Australia. It's just too far." And I'm like, "Mom, who have you been talking to?" And yep, there will be one of her siblings that have spoken that into her ear and whispered in her ear, "You're too old to fly." And it's true. It's what we believe.
So our comfort zone, we have our comfort zone. And as soon as you don't do something, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's why they say constantly do things that scares the hell out of you. You know, keep stepping outside of your comfort zone. That way your world gets bigger and bigger, not smaller and smaller. Take those chances. Have a life wish, not a death wish. You don't need to stay safe from anything. Everything is fine. Be more afraid of not having a real life, that you're scared to do things rather than just jumping and going for it, because the only thing that you're going to find is that you become stronger from it, wiser, having a life, enjoying having a full life.
Talking about stepping out of your comfort zone, Kat. I've heard recently you have done a trip to the inside of the volcano. Can you tell us a little bit about how that was and if you can recommend it to anybody?
Absolutely. So I was pretty bad with my MS, as I explained before, in my 30s, and I did so many things to cure myself. But when I say MS, I think it's a lot of autoimmune diseases. It's a lot of us, you know. And I really just changed the way I ate, the way I thought. And so now, 25 years after I was diagnosed, I can walk again. So to celebrate, I'm like, I am going to climb two live volcanoes in Vanuatu. And it wasn't easy. It's remote and it was difficult, and I had the wrong footwear and I'd never done anything like this before. The first day, it was a 7 hour climb, and my feet were bloody. And I looked down at my feet, and every step was agony. And I said, "Stop focusing on your feet and think about this amazing feat, what you're conquering." I thought, I can choose my heart. I can keep focusing on what is challenging me, or I can focus on this amazing opportunity in front of me to conquer these mountains, which I never thought I'd be able to do. I didn't, I always hoped, but the way I was going wasn't good. So yes, so I climbed these volcanoes, and we sleep on the top in the kill zone. And I was with my daughter, and you can see the volcano going off, and we're sleeping there, and the next morning we get up and it's twice as bad, or it's twice as spectacular. And I don't have a death wish, I have a life wish. I wish to experience everything fully, and I totally surrender to fate. If I was meant to die on a volcano, I'm going to die on a volcano. If I'm going to die walking outside and crossing the road, That's what I'm going to do. 91.4% of the things we stress and worry about don't happen, yet we stress and worry about so many things. So I always say to people, take that leap of faith to make that change. You can change your life right now in this moment by changing your thinking. And you don't have to change everything. You just have to change right now and decide right now in this moment, I'm content and I choose to do the things that will make me better physically and mentally right now so that tomorrow and the next moment and the next moment and the next moment I'm getting stronger, not weaker. Choose to be stronger by the end of this year than weaker. I do push-ups. I start at the beginning of the year. I'm like, okay, I try to do as many push-ups as my year. And I'm like 51 and that's almost 52. That's going to be hard, but I'm going to do it.
It's really annoying, by the way, when you have Kat sleep over in your house because she always makes you do push ups in the morning. It's like, push up challenge, everybody out of bed. I love that.
Yeah.
Hugo
Yeah.
still gets me on them as well. He's like, Mom, do your push ups. I'm like, I
Go, Hugo. That's so good. But that's the thing. I mean, imagine if people say I can't do that every day. I said, how I can't do that anymore. How many times have you tried today? People just don't try. It's like just do one. So those exercise snacks, I really think are pivotal, those little things that you can do that don't take any time. They don't need to, you don't need to transform your life, but you do need to change things, everything, like minute by minute, make those small changes. 1%, get 1% better.
I'm reading a book at the moment by Satguru, and it's talking about all of our unhappiness comes from things not going the way we want them to go and believing that they're not going the way we want them to go. But really, the whole premise behind his book is he's saying, well, what if you believe that they're going the way that you want them to go? Very similar to your beliefs, what you're saying, and how we can reframe our mind and our thoughts. And for what about how do we understand more about that, especially when things aren't going the way that we want them to go? How do we tell ourselves to remind ourselves that we can reframe those thoughts?
First of all, I'm a passionate believer that nothing happens to us. Everything happens for us. So many people, and you always know if you go, oh, he shouldn't have done that. That shouldn't have happened. Right there is your red flag to say, I am denying reality. The point is, when reality happens, that's what happened. You can't change it. So, of course, it was meant to happen. But if you think everything that happens for you, not to you, and that's why I've got never let a good disaster go to waste, because it's because of those disasters, it's because of those challenges. Those are the things that turn you into who you are. I have this belief that our life is like a puzzle game. And I'm here with my family and at the cottage, and we have a puzzle for like a thousand pieces. And some bits are easy, the straight edges, and you can figure them out. And there's other pieces, and you can't work them out. But we don't become furious. You become curious when these things happen. And then when you finally finish that puzzle, when that last piece is laid, you realize that all those bits, all those difficult bits had to be part of your life because they make your puzzle whole. So every single thing that happens for you, you look at it and you go, "Oh, great. What's this meant to teach me?" And not all of it's going to be pleasant because in life there's a Korean proverb that I love, that I just love. It says that in life we have 100,000 joys and 100,000 sorrows, and we need to go through all of them. And part of my book was reflecting on my life, and I used to be a door-to-door sales coupon person. I know it's really sad that I'm not doing it anymore. I was really looking forward to that. No, but as a door-to-door salesperson, they used to teach us get excited when the door gets slammed in your face, because every single no leads to a yes. And if you didn't get enough yeses, and you usually try to get 10 to 20 yeses in a day, if you didn't get enough yeses, it's because you didn't get enough no's. So we almost embrace that adversity and we embrace those people. Just it wasn't no, it just wasn't the time. So it's those challenges that we have to go through so that we break through to get to those yeses. So I really embrace my adversity. I love it. I'm like, oh, great. That hurt. What's it teaching me? Oh, yeah, don't do that again. But they're all lessons. Everything that happens, you just surrender to your fate and you go, this has happened. It's happened for a reason. What's the best way for me to think about it? That shouldn't have happened. This is horrible. Or, oh, wow, I'm in this situation. Now what am I gonna do about it? And then you become a master of disaster. And the more and the faster that you learn to master your disasters with the 12 principles, you really look at every disaster you're in and you go, okay, how can I flip my perspective? Is this really that awful or do I just think it is? Am I just creating a story? What problems am I grateful for not having? How else could I think about it? But one story I really love. When I was really struggling with my depression at one point, I decided to study Buddhism. And the first Buddhist class I ever went to changed my life forever because I went there and I said, I'm 30 years old. I can barely walk. I can barely see out of one eye. I'm married to a man that, things can be difficult. I got 3 young kids who just never listen to me. And I have a progressive disease and I'm meant to be in a wheelchair in like 10 years. And my teacher looked at me and she yelled at me and she said, "You think your life sucks? Change your perception." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I thought, "You're not very compassionate." And she said, "I want you to do this. Find something that you hate and turn it into something you love. And you've got 1 week. It can't be a person. It's got to be something tangible." So, of course, I chose Vegemite. I hated Vegemite. And so I went home and I was like, now I've got to figure out how to eat Vegemite and turn it into my hangover food. And I asked all you Australians, well, you're not Australian, you're kind of Australian, but I asked Australians far and wide, I'm like, how do you make Vegemite good? I said, well, you have to lightly toast white bread and then put lots of butter and just a scraping of Vegemite. And I used to think, a scraping, you don't like it either. That's why you're not piling it on like peanut butter. So then that week I started doing it. I started making toast and I started making it and eating it and going, I can choose to love this or hate it. And as I kept eating this Vegemite, I decided by the end of the week, I can eat Vegemite. It's fine. And that's the moment I realized I could change my perception on everything I hated in my life into something I love by changing my perception. And eventually I did turn it into my hangover food. Now I'm trying not to drink as much. So it's nothing's good or bad. Everything is filtered from our perception.
That is so cool, Kat. So, how can we all become masters of disasters? And how do we get a hold of your book and learn these 12 principles?
So yeah, head to on my website actually, catfinnerty.com is all my 12 principles. They're free, they're there. I have lots of blogs. You can grab my book on, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all those places. And I also run retreats and often with you, Laurentine, and people can come and they can experience what's called empowering experiences where we don't just eat healthy food and move and give, but we give back. So we have a chicken project where we go and we give back to the communities because, as you know, they have such a severe lack of protein that so many of the babies there are born growth retarded. So it's called 1,000 Days of Life Project, and we go and we build chicken houses so that they have access to eggs.
Beautiful. Well, for all of you guys that loved this beautiful woman's story and her wisdom, we're going to put some links in the show notes for you to be able to access some of her work. But Kat, thank you so much for having this discussion with us all, and thank you for sharing your experience in life and for encouraging us and empowering us to be and do better. Like I'm like tomorrow morning, first thing I'm going to be waking up and going to do something for my health and eat healthy. So you've really inspired not
Why
just me,
tomorrow, Laurentine? Do it
all of
now.
us. Do it now, right now. I totally will, right after this podcast. Thank you so much, Kat, and thank you so much for your journey so that we can all heal as well and learn from it.
Love you, Laurentine, and thank you for everything that you do and constantly inspiring everyone with your incredible work. Love you to bits. You're the real
Thank you.
deal.
Thank you, gorgeous. Bye, Kat. So, yes, thank you everyone for listening. I really enjoyed that talk. I hope you did too. And there will be more of these on the Food Matters podcast. So, head to foodmatters.com and see you again.